हॅलो स्टुडंट्स, आजचा आपला पहिला टॉपिक आहे ॲसिड्स, बेसिस अँड सॉल्ट्स. आणि वी आर स्टार्टिंग अवर लेक्चर. फर्स्ट ऑफ ऑल, व्हॉट इज द नीड ऑफ स्टडिंग ॲसिड्स, बेसिस अँड सॉल्ट्स. म्हणजे आपण का स्टडी करतो ॲसिड, बेसिस आणि सॉल्ट्सच्या बाबतीत. म्हणजे कोणताही चॅप्टर स्टडी करताना, बिफोर स्टडिंग एनी चॅप्टर, वी मस्ट नो व्हॉट इज द नीड to study that chapter, what is the need to study that thing. So in this way, first we will study why we are studying acids, bases and salts. The acids, bases and salts are most common substances which are used in the chemistry. They are found everywhere, means many substances in our surrounding are either acidic, basic, either of acidic nature or basic nature, or they are salt. So they are very common, and therefore we are studying them in detail. In this chapter we are going to study in detail about acids, bases and salts. So first we will recall what are acids and bases. First we will recall the things that we have already studied in 6, 7, 8, 9 standards. So first we will recall what are acids and bases. ॲसिड्स बद्दल आपण एकदम जनरल खूप आधी शिकलेलो एक गोष्ट की ॲसिड्स आर सोर इन टेस्ट आणि बेसेस आर बिटर इन टेस्ट. The acids, the general way of identifying the acids is the substances which taste sour are acids. जे आंबट लागतात ते ॲसिड असतात आणि जे कडवट जी टेस्ट असते सबस्टन्सेस ते बेसेस असतात. मीन्स अशी एक जनरल क्लासिफिकेशन आहे. बट दिस क्लासिफिकेशन इज not exact, or we cannot identify every substance by tasting it. Therefore it becomes very difficult. So the general or very basic definition of acids are the substances which are sour to taste, and bases are the substances which are bitter to taste and soapy in touch. They are soapy, म्हणजे ते बुळबुळीत असतात असे पदार्थ आहेत, त्यांना बेसिस असं म्हणतात. मग ही जनरल डेफिनेशन आहे ॲसिड्स आणि बेसिसची. बट इफ यू हॅव टू स्टडी इन डिटेल व्हॉट आर ॲसिड्स अँड व्हॉट आर बेसिस, देन थोडंसं जर आपल्याला पुढे अजून डिटेलमध्ये जाऊन स्टडी करावं लागेल. वी हॅव स्टडीड दॅट देर आर डिफरंट टाइप्स ऑफ एलिमेंट इन द फर्स्ट चॅप्टर, ऑर इन द प्रिव्हियस इयर इन द 9th स्टँडर्ड वी हॅव स्टडीड दॅट देर आर 92 डिफरंट टाइप्स ऑफ एलिमेंट्स. वेगवेगळे एलिमेंट्स असतात आणि एलिमेंट्स आर क्लासिफाईड इन टू 2 डिफरंट टाइप्स, मेटल्स अँड नॉन मेटल्स. The classification of substances between acids and bases, or substances between acidic and basic substances is based on this classification of elements. Some elements are metallic and some elements are non-metallic. We know what are metals and what are non-metals. The substances of the elements which are hard and hard are generally considered as metals, and substances which are soft and brittle are generally considered as non-metals. But more precise definition of metals is the elements which donate electrons are called as metals, and elements which accept electron are called as non-metals. And the classification of substances as acids and bases also depend on these definitions of metals and non-metals. So we know what are metals and non-metals, and the acids are derived from non-metals. Acids are derived from non-metals, whereas bases are derived from metals. सिंपल लँग्वेज मध्ये आपण असं म्हणू शकतो की ॲसिडचा बाप आहे तो नॉन मेटल आहे आणि बेसिसचा बाप आहे तो मेटल आहे. हे कसं आहे की लेट्स टेक एन एक्झाम्पल ऑफ नॉन मेटल, सल्फर, अँड मेटलचं एक्झाम्पल लेट्स टेक एन एक्झाम्पल ऑफ मेटल ॲज सोडियम. सल्फर आणि सोडियम आपण घेतलं. आय विल डू अ सेम प्रोसिजर, आय विल परफॉर्म सेम प्रोसिजर ऑन बोथ दीज एलिमेंट. सल्फरला मी पहिल्यांदा बर्न केलं. बर्न करणं म्हणजे रिॲक्शन विथ ऑक्सिजन. सल्फरला ऑक्सिजन बरोबर रिॲक्ट केलं तर इट फॉर्म सल्फर डायऑक्साईड. सोडियमला ऑक्सिजन रिॲक्ट केलं, इट बर्न अँड इट प्रोड्युसेस सोडियम ऑक्साईड. आफ्टर दॅट मी त्या दोघांमध्ये पाणी टाकल्यावर काय झालं, इट रिॲक्टेड विथ वॉटर अँड फॉर्म H2SO4, अँड Na2O रिॲक्टेड विथ वॉटर टू फॉर्म NaOH, which is a basic substance, and H2SO4 we all know it is a acidic substance. Sulfuric acid means नॉन मेटल्स पासून बनतात ॲसिड्स आणि मेटल्स पासून बनतात bases. So this is the proper definition of acids, and this can be a proper definition of acids and bases. We will be studying more definitions or more ways to define acids and bases, but this is one way of defining acids. The traditional way was sorry. The traditional way of defining acids was acids are sour to taste and bases are bitter in taste. And one more way of defining acid is acids are derived from non-metals, whereas bases are derived from metals. These are the two ways of defining metals and non-metal. We will go through the textbook. In the textbook, we will find some applications of acidic and basic substances in the first part. So we will see some applications of acidic and basic substances in our day-to-day life. So the one example is given, acidity of stomach. Acidity of stomach. तर आपल्याला ॲसिडिटी होते, म्हणजे वी सफर फ्रॉम ॲसिडिटी. ॲसिडिटी काय आहे की बिकॉज ऑफ uneven or unhealthy eating habits, आपल्या डायजेस्टिव्ह ट्रॅकमधला एक इम्पॉर्टंट पार्ट आहे आपलं स्टमक. मीन्स जेव्हा आपण फूड इंजेक्ट करतो, म्हणजे आपण फूड खाल्लं थ्रू द युसोफेगस ते आत जातं आणि देन इट एंटर्स इनटू अ J shaped sac which is called as stomach, and the walls of the stomach secrete hydrochloric acid. Walls of the stomach secrete dilute hydrochloric acid, and it is useful for the digestion of the food. हे hydrochloric acid जे walls of the stomach secrete करतात ते for the digestion of the food important असतं. But if the amount of HCl is increased in the stomach due to various reasons, generally it happens due to the wrong food habits, but if the amount of HCl increased in the stomach, then this condition is called as acidity. And to remove this acidity, we generally take antacids, and these antacids are basic substances. This is one of the application of the acids and bases of the bases. We also see many applications of acids, such as cleaning of copper vessels. Copper vessels generally turn black. Black due to reaction of it with oxygen in the air, and it forms copper oxide. The copper ची जी भांडी असतात त्याच्यावरती copper oxide चा layer असतो, and to remove this copper oxide layer, which is basic layer, to remove this we generally use tamarind or lime juice. आपण tamarind किंवा lime juice वापरतो. Tamarind and lime juice are acidic substances. We use acid to remove these bases. So these are some applications of acid and bases in our day-to-day life. So therefore, the study of acids and bases is very important to us. So we must study acids and bases. Now comes another difficulty. The next point given in the textbook is understanding chemical properties of acids and bases. Understanding chemical properties of acids and bases. The next topic is understanding chemical properties of acids and bases. आणि त्यातला पण सर्वात पहिला पॉइंट आहे आयडेंटिफिकेशन. For the identification of acids and bases, म्हणजे the substances are given to you. काही पदार्थ दिले आहेत तुम्हाला आणि you have to identify whether these are acidic in nature or basic in nature. So for that purpose we use certain indicators. आपण काही indicatorsचा यूज करतो. आता indicators म्हणजे काय? Indicators are the substances which by changing color change करून ते indicate करतात की whether the substance is acidic or basic. It is like a traffic signal. Traffic signal कशा प्रकारे? Traffic signal कडे कसं असतं की when we see green light we know we have to go, and when we see red light we have to stop. In this way, in the same way, the indicators for the identification we use indicators by changing the color show us that whether the substance is acidic or basic. In our textbook they have given us information about 2 or 3 indicators, but there are many indicators. In their textbook I think they have given us litmus and phenolphthalein. So we all know about litmus. Litmus is an indicator which turns red in acids and blue in bases. Means if there is an acidic substance and we put litmus into it, it will turn red, and if there is a basic substance we put litmus into it, it will turn blue. So in this way litmus helps us to identify the acids and bases. There is another indicator, phenolphthalein. Phenolphthalein is colorless in acids and it turns pink in bases. In this way it shows, it tells us that whether the substance is acidic or basic by changing its color. So we can identify, there are activities given in your textbook. We can identify various acids and bases by using litmus or phenolphthalein or methyl orange. In the activity they have told us to take acetic acid, sulfuric acid, KOH means potassium hydroxide, NaOH means sodium hydroxide, calcium hydroxide, and check whether these substances are acidic or basic by using these indicators. Let's take an example of acetic acid. So if we put litmus into acetic acid, it will turn red because acetic acid is a acidic substance. But if we put NaOH in the if we put litmus in the NaOH solution, it will turn blue because NaOH is a basic substance, and similar things happen with the different indicators. So in this way, with the help of indicators, we can identify whether the substance is acidic or basic. These are some indicators which shows that the substance is acidic or basic by using the color change. But there are some indicators which by changing the smell of the substance tell us whether the substance is acidic or basic, and these indicators are called as olfactory indicators. Olfactory indicators means indicators which change smell when they are put into acids or bases. And some examples of olfactory indicators are onion, clove. Onion change taste onion change its smell when it is put into an acid, and it changes its smell when it is put into a base. So by studying or by observing the change in the smell, we can identify whether the substance is acidic or basic, and such indicators are called as olfactory indicators. So there are two types of indicator based on color change, and the second type of indicators are olfactory indicators. Now we are going to study various chemical reactions involving acids, bases and salts. But before studying the chemical reactions of acids and bases, we will study an important difference between acids and bases, which will help us to study the reactions in more proper way. So therefore, first we will study the important difference between acids and bases. I will write examples of some acids and bases. HCl is an acid, NaOH is a base, H2SO4 is an acid, KOH is a base, HNO3 is an acid, COH twice is a base. HCl stands for hydrochloric acid, H2SO4 stands for sulfuric acid, HNO3 stands for nitric acid, NaOH is a sodium hydroxide, it is potassium hydroxide, and this is calcium hydroxide. We all know that all the substances are, in the 9th standard we have studied that all the substances are made up of one positive and one negative radical. कोणत्याही पदार्थामध्ये एक पॉझिटिव्ह रॅडिकल आणि एक निगेटिव्ह रॅडिकल असतो. आता फॉर एक्झाम्पल HCl is made up of H plus and Cl minus. H2SO4 is made up of H plus and SO4 2 minus. HNO3 is made up of H plus and NO3 minus. Similarly, in the similar manner, NaOH is made up of Na plus and OH minus. KOH is made up of K plus and OH minus. CaOH is made up of Ca2 plus and OH minus. In this way, every substance is made up of one positive and one negative radical. So, acids, अगर हम acids को जरा अपन acids से एकदम detail में नीट बघितलं, तो you will find that in all acids there are two radicals. Obviously, there are two radicals, but one of them or the positive one of them is always H plus. म्हणजे काय ऍसिड म्हणजे कोण की ज्याच्यामध्ये H plus is the only positive radical are called as acid. आणि बेसिस म्हणजे काय की ज्याच्यामध्ये OH minus is the only negative radical. बेसिस आहे NaOH is a base. पॉझिटिव्ह पण आहे निगेटिव्ह पण आहे, बट Na पॉझिटिव्ह कोणता पण असेल बट निगेटिव्ह वाला आहे तो कोणता असणार नेहमी OH असणार. अशा सबस्टन्सेसला काय म्हणतात बेसिस म्हणतात. सच सबस्टन्सेस आर कॉल्ड ॲज बेसिस. सो इन दिस वे वी कॅन क्लासिफाय ॲसिड्स अँड बेसिस. So acids अजून एक डेफिनेशन एकदम प्रॉपर डेफिनेशन. Acids are the substances which contain H plus ion as the only positive ion. म्हणजे acids मध्ये पॉझिटिव्ह आणि निगेटिव्ह आयन असतात बट पॉझिटिव्ह आयन इज ऑलवेज H plus ion. कोणता पण ऍसिड यू कॅन टेक एनी ऍसिड. CH3COOH. This contains CH3COO minus and H plus. It contains H plus. तर ऍसिड आहे इट विल हॅव पॉझिटिव्ह रॅडिकल ॲज H plus. H plus त्याच्यामधला पॉझिटिव्ह रॅडिकल असणार. आणि बेसिस कोणताही बेस असो बट निगेटिव्ह रॅडिकल इज ऑलवेज OH minus. Now we will turn to the chemical reactions involving acids, bases and salt. आणि त्यातली पण पहिली रिॲक्शन आहे acids reacting with metals. How do acids react with metals? Acids metal बरोबर कशा प्रकारे रिॲक्ट करतात आणि एक we will first write general reaction. General reaction is acids react with metals to form salt plus hydrogen gas. So let's take an example and from that example we will study this. Acid से example we have HCl and we'll add a metal into it. Let's take the example of metal as Na. I have put HCl acid, hydrochloric acid into sodium, or I have put sodium into HCl. तो we all know HCl acid कैसे बना है? It is made up of H plus and Cl minus. तो this sodium is also positive in nature and sodium is more positive than this hydrogen. Therefore, this sodium displaces this hydrogen. Now, sodium hydrogen ला ढकलून देतो and it takes its position and forms NaCl. It forms NaCl. And hydrogen बिचारा in this way this reaction takes place. We can write this reaction with different metals and different acids. Now I will write the same reaction with the help of I am taking H2SO4 as an acid and calcium as a metal. In this reaction also calcium will displace this hydrogen. Calcium will displace hydrogen and will form calcium sulfate CaSO4 and hydrogen gas will get evolved. I can take HNO3 as an acid and I will take potassium as a metal. This potassium will displace hydrogen. It will remove hydrogen and form potassium nitrate and hydrogen gas will get displaced. You have to balance these reactions. You all know how to balance the chemical reaction. Therefore, it will not be difficult for you. So, this is our first reaction and this is the general reaction of the first reaction. How do acids react with metal? Now, we will see how do bases react with metals.